Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on our webinar. My name's Neil and I'm joined by my colleague Damien, who will be going through a demo of DocuWare later. Today I'm going to talk briefly about the current situation and how document management can really help businesses adopt a new home working strategy. So one of the key points is really about business continuity and being able to perform your current job without being in your normal working environment and having to adapt to the new processes being enforced on us over a short period of time. And this could prove to be a positive step because it will allow businesses to recognize the strengths of digital working without necessarily relying on the existing paper-based processes. Maybe you now have a key person going into the office, scanning the mail coming into the business and distributing these electronically, whereas before they were being hand-delivered internally. And when we were all working in the office, things were simple. You could access the documents, applications, and resources on the work network. Now most of us are working at home, the challenge is to provide effective access to that information. And VPN access is great for this purpose, but it can be slow and complicated to set up and maintain, and it can add additional load to your network traffic, preventing access when you need it. And documents are stored in different places that you can refer to when you need them, whether it be in physical or digital format. And I've categorized these into four main areas that we commonly see. So most companies have a physical storage, be it in filing cabinets or archive boxes, and whether they're stored on or off-site. And we get a lot of people using email really as an ad hoc document management system. You may have a shared network drive which everyone accesses, and you may also be storing local copies on your computer. And currently when signing documents, people would normally have to print a document, sign it, and send it via post, or maybe they'd scan it back in and send it electronically via email. And working from home, you may not necessarily have the equipment available, and also putting something in the post might open up the opportunity of sensitive information being lost or mislaid. And having a central and digital process to move documents around the business for sign-off processes is key to allow you to shift away from the manual side of the process. In most industries, having a wet signature is no longer a legal requirement, and replacing this with a digital alternative helps drive a quicker and more efficient turnaround, and also reduces any previous risks and costs involved. So to highlight the reasons why businesses look at document management, here's a quote from IDC. So these are a respected market intelligence firm. And in their analysis of document processes, they have shown that employees waste 3.5 hours per week searching for and not finding documents, and additional hours are wasted recreating lost documents. So document management can really make a big difference in helping companies to not only release the value in their employees, but also increase productivity with the time savings provided. Okay, so now I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Damien, who's going to take you through a short demonstration of DocuWare.
Great stuff. Thanks, Neil, and good morning, everyone. So my demos today are going to be some basic examples of how DocuWare might help with remote working, but it's important to say that the system can be built however you want it based on your exact requirements. So we're going to start off with the DocuWare interface. Now, as you can see, this is just a web application, so you can easily access it on any device, wherever you are. And there are some mobile apps, which we'll also show later. So if we go through some of the tabs, we've got the document trays to start off with. Now, this is the first stage of capturing documents into DocuWare before you index and store them. Then we've got the search tab where you can kind of select your virtual filing cabinet, enter in your search criteria. So this could be, say, document type, company name, that kind of thing. And then we have lists. So these are saved searches, which are quite handy for keeping an eye on documents going into DocuWare and kind of going through each stage. So we can see here some unread post, some unsigned contracts, that kind of thing. Then we have tasks. Now, tasks are documents that require some kind of action. So here we have a contract and some invoices. And folders are just a different way of searching for documents. So here you can kind of browse through folders to find that information. Now, the first part of the demo is going to be a digital mail room. So where users aren't in the office and post can't easily be distributed, there are many users going into the office to scan documents and distribute them electronically. So I'm going to try and mimic this process. If I open a couple of folders here, I've got some example documents on the right-hand side, and let's say some scan folders on the left-hand side. So let's say I've got some general post for Damien, for me. So I'll scan them into Damien's post folder, and DocuWare is going to capture those files, let Damien know that there's some posts for them to read, and maybe kind of action as well. Now, you might also have a process or a post process that needs to go through an automated process. And for this, I've got some payslips here. Now, this is just one file, but it contains many payslips for multiple employees. So if I kind of capture that into the payslips folder, and what DocuWare is going to do is capture that file, recognize that it's multiple payslips, split them up, store and index them against each employee, and also distribute them to each employee's email address. Now, the third capture process that I was going to show is a post that should trigger a process. And for this, I'm going to use some invoices. So these might need to go through an approval process. So if I capture these into the invoices folder, and again, it's just the same as someone going into the office, putting a bunch of documents onto a scanner, scanning them to individual folders, or also using some kind of barcode or separator sheets or something like that. Now, if I go back to DocuWare, I can show the general post. So this is where we captured some post for me, for Damien, and we can see the post starting to populate in here. We can also see in here we've got documents post by user. So if you've got the right privileges, maybe you can view each of the users' folders and what post they're receiving. If I go back to my lists, I go to one of these documents, I could say, mark this as read and just stamp it, and that will remove it from my list. I might also have a document that I've received that I think, hang on a minute, this should go to somebody else. Maybe it needs someone to action it, so I can use the send request option within DocuWare. And we can go in here, maybe select another user, fill out some information, maybe a message, and you can also assign some actions to it, so you could send that as a request to that particular person. But there's just a few ways of capturing the post, distributing it, accessing it, marking it as read, or maybe kind of moving it around the business for someone to action. So the next part was the post for an automated process, and we captured some payslips, which DocuWare automatically split, stored, and assigned to users. So if we go ahead and search for those now, so we'll go into the HR filing cabinet, and we'll search for some payslips. And now we can see these payslips are here. And this was the document that was split, and you can see it's been assigned to each of the individual employees. If we go into folders, you might have noticed that this was empty before. So if we refresh it, we can now see that it's created a folder for each of the employees, and they can go in and access their payslips. Also, in the email, now I've just used one email account because this is a demo, but you can see each of the payslips has been emailed to the employees. So you can see here, hi Tom Winter, everything's been personalized to them. So if I go into one of these emails, and I can access that payslip. So that's all been done automatically. Now, we actually did something similar to this for a finance company where they're receiving instructions via the post. For them, we used reference numbers on each of the documents to identify the department and document type in order to capture and distribute these documents to the right people and make decisions on what needed to happen to them. But you can use any piece of information like a keyword or a barcode to achieve that type of functionality. Now, the last part of the digital mailroom that I'm going to show is a post that triggers the process. Now, when we captured the invoices, they went to the intelligent indexing tray. So intelligent indexing is kind of a reasonably unique feature in DocuWare, which is like an AI. So it tries to read the document and understand what the document is, what the index information should be, and then it has a traffic light system to show its confidence that it's captured the information correctly. So we can see here we've got a bunch of invoices, they're all green, and obviously I've stored these documents before, so it's learned the patterns of how the information's shown on the document. Let's just zoom out a bit. So that it's recognized this as an invoice, and if I click on the other fields, it highlights where it's captured this information from on the right-hand side, so you can visually check that it's correct. Now, let's say it hadn't captured the invoice number, so let's just delete this. In order to teach the AI engine where to capture this information from, you literally just click on it, and it fills out that field, and you're done. Really quick and easy. So we'll just store the last document as well. You'll probably notice the circles at the top with the numbers in increasing, and we'll kind of show that part in just a bit. Now, if you're using DocuWare as a simple digital archive, just for kind of simple search and retrieval and access to documents, regardless of where you are, I can show you how to find one of those documents in a few clicks and maybe do something with it. So if I use the search tab, I'm going to search in the finance filing cabinet. Let's say I'm going to search for an invoice. If I start typing, it will automatically try and populate the fields with information that it already knows. I can also use the looking arrows at the end of those boxes, and I can just choose some of the options. We can maybe choose a date range, a status. We can also search full text, which means we're searching through the content of each of these documents to try and find that keyword. So if I click on search, we should receive a few of these. If I click on the first one, we can have a look. We get straight to the document. You can see that the word we were looking for as well has been highlighted. And if we open up the toolbox, we can do something with it. Say download it, send it as an email, print it, whatever you want to do. There's some annotations as well down here. If I go to this one, this will have a bit more history to it, because I wanted to show you the audit history of a particular document. So if I go in here, we can see the workflow history. So we can see every action that happened on a document, who actioned that task, when they actioned it. So you can trace exactly the life cycle of that particular document. We can also see the document history, which is a bit different. So this is where you can see who's opened the document, who's maybe downloaded it or edited the index information. But the important thing is there's a full audit trail of every action, every piece of history for that particular document. Now, as you can see, DocuWare can be used as a simple storage retrieval solution, or you can take advantage of some of the workflow features to automate common tasks. Now, when I stored the invoices, I mentioned that it had triggered a workflow. And if we have a look in lists, we can now see that there are some unassigned invoices here. And if we open up tasks, we can see some tasks here as well. Now, I thought this was an opportunity to show you how we can do this on the mobile device. So if you don't have access to your computer and you're out and about, this is a great way of kind of accessing tasks, searching for documents, that kind of thing. So let's just refresh the page. Now if we go into here, so this is the, as you can see on the left-hand side, this is mimicking the web page. We'll go to simple invoice approval. And we've got some that need to be assigned to authorizer. And again, you can just use the normal tools to have a look in, pinch to zoom, that kind of thing. And we're just going to assign this to an authorizer. So let's assign this to the finance manager. And I'm going to assign this one to myself. And also we've got one here that's out for approval. So let's say we've had a look at the invoice, we decided that we're happy with that. We can go ahead and approve that invoice as well. So it's just a few examples of how you can use the mobile device to perform workflow tasks when you're out of the office. And hopefully in the left-hand side with the web app, you can see those statuses updating as well. Now, we've also got the lists like we have in the web application. And let's say while we're out, we want to search for a particular document. We can choose our filing cabinet. You can enter in the index fields just like you can in the web app. I'm just going to do a blanket search. But again, you can see here's one of the documents that we added earlier. We can have a look at the stamp, so we can see this has been assigned to the finance manager. And let's say we needed to do something with it. So we can actually share this document either in its original format or with annotations, without annotations. And we can use our native apps to share that with someone as well. Cool. So it's just an example of how the mobile app works and how you can kind of perform tasks and search for documents. So the last thing I was going to show was electronic signatures. So if you have a new contract that you need signed, when working from home, this can be quite a tricky thing to process. And DocuWare has a new feature which makes this really easy to send a document to a third party for signature. And this is using a trusted signature provider which proves the authenticity of the signature and its legal admissibility. And this is something that's been asked for a lot, so we're really keen to find out what you guys think. So if I show you how that works, let's say I've got a new sales contract that I need somebody to sign. If I import that into DocuWare, I can go ahead and store that. And again, everything you see can be configured. I just configured a store dialog for sales contracts which require signatures, but you can set these up however you like. Now you can fill out some of these fields. I'll just zoom in. We can fill out the company name like that. Now, obviously, you're going to want someone to sign the document, so you're going to fill out their name, email address, and because this is using two-factor authentication, you'd fill out their phone number, but this is kind of stored in the background, so I don't need to do it on this one. Now, in a moment, we should see the lists increase, and here we can see we now have a new unsigned contract awaiting a signature. And if I go into my email account in a moment or so, we should receive an email saying that here's a document that's been received for sign off. But again, let's see if I can show you this working in the mobile, on my mobile again. So hang on a second, let's just open that up. So here's the email that we've just received, and here's the contract that requires signature. So we just get access to the document. And there's some instructions on the front page, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Here's a copy of the contract. I'll just click on sign. And what's happening now is it's actually sending me a code. I can just fill out that code to validate who I am. If I put this in portrait mode, I can just sign on my mobile device and click on finish. Now this will take a moment or so, because what's going to happen is the service is going to write back to DocuWare, replace the unsigned contract with a signed contract. And I've also set up to trigger a workflow task so someone within the office can just double check that's all happened correctly. Just move that out of the way. So here we can see the trigger that's brought about the task. If I open this in a new viewer window, just so you can see it a bit more clearly, and the signature was on the second page. So if I browse to the bottom, we should be able to see the signature I've just applied with my details. There's also a report attached to prove the validity and the kind of admissibility of that particular signature. And just within DocuWare, I've set up a signature stamp for myself. So maybe I can just kind of countersign it here as well. Save the changes and just confirm that's been signed. So within a couple of minutes, I've literally completed a whole signature sign-off process securely and legally within DocuWare. And if you'd like to see a more detailed invoice approval workflow with line item capture or GL coding, or if you're interested in web forms for some kind of request or application, we've got some pre-recorded webinars that Neil will link to a bit later. But that's it from me, and back to Neil.
Brilliant, thanks Damien. So with the increase of remote working, documents can now be managed on the move, even using the DocuWare mobile apps for Android and iOS. And documents can now be captured from your smartphone using the paper scan app, and DocuWare allows you to seamlessly capture files from your printers and email accounts, so you can store business critical documents easily and centrally. And there's no longer a need to store copies of physical paper, so you can really eliminate the filing cabinets and archive boxes as well. And for documents needing approval, you can easily set up electronic workflows to manage this process, or even send a document for ad hoc approval. And if a signature is required, and as demonstrated by Damien, we can send documents for authorization, allowing internal and external parties to sign these whilst being on the move and without the document disappearing from your view. So all of our projects involving DocuWare provide our customers with a greater time saving, and this allows them to channel this saving into their core role and in some cases other areas of the business. So what we've shown you today is a very small snapshot of what you can achieve using DocuWare. Some other areas where DocuWare can really help is in accounts for invoice processing, which I know Damien touched on the demo today, HR for employee onboarding and digital forms for capture of information. Sales is another department, maybe for sales collateral, brochures and price sheets. Project management for project files and drawings. And it's really any department which has a document-driven process that can benefit from DocuWare, even if it's just for a simple storage and retrieval process. But once again, we do appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Thanks very much.